In this video, we'll be discussing claims, reasons, and evidence, three key parts of the essay that students need to write in order to earn their high school equivalency certificate. There are several different types of essays associated with the HSE. The type we're going to discuss in this video are referred to as argumentative or persuasive essays. I'm not so wild about the description of argumentative. To me, argumentative sort of puts a person in mind of a discussion like this, yelling back and forth, browbeating the other party. That's not where we're at on this in this discussion. I like the persuasive description better. Persuasive tends to suggest something more like this, where it's a reasoned discussion and you're trying to convince somebody of something using logic and reason, and in some cases common sense. Okay, let's start with a claim. A claim is a statement or opinion everyone may not agree with. A claim usually appears in the first paragraph of a persuasive essay. And with the claim, the author tells you what this paper is going to be about. The rest of the paper tends to be the author's attempt to convince you that his or her claim is true. Examples of claim would be something like, iPhones are the best phones in the world. Now, iPhones are good phones, but I'm not sure everyone would agree they're the best phones in the world. Another example would be, students should be required to wear school uniforms. Again, there's disagreement as to whether students should be required to wear uniforms or not. So the rest of the paper in this case would be aimed at convincing you that students should be required to wear uniforms. Okay, let's move on to reasons. A reason is a brief explanation why a claim is true. An example of a reason might be, studies have shown that it works. A hot topic today is medical marijuana. So a person who's claiming that medical marijuana should be legal in all 50 states might cite this as a reason because studies have shown that it works. Another example of a reason could be, she's done it before. Perhaps a prosecutor might use this reason for why a shoplifter should go to jail instead of just receiving a fine. The reason would be because she's done it before and clearly hasn't learned her lesson. Now let's move on to evidence. Evidence, facts or other convincing information or opinions that support your reason. An example of evidence might be, he sold 25 million records. This could be evidence that would support someone who says that somebody is perhaps the greatest singer of all time. Evidence tends to be more specific than reasons. And another example of evidence is, a single car puts 575 tons of carbon monoxide into the atmosphere every year. This could be evidence to support someone who believes that everyone should be driving electric cars. So these are, again, both of these are examples of facts to support a reason why the claim is true. Okay, let's walk through a claim, a reason, and evidence, and we'll see how the three are related to each other. So for the claim, this could be somebody trying to convince a girl that she needs to find a new boyfriend. Clearly there's not agreement on this, and so the person now needs to convince or persuade this girl that he's got to go. This is where the first reason comes in. She says he doesn't appreciate you. Now this would be a good reason to get rid of this guy, but she's not convinced that this is really true. Now comes the evidence. The persuader then cites a very specific example of him not appreciating her. She worked hard, she made a fancy dinner, he ate it, didn't comment on it, didn't show any appreciation for the fact that she clearly spent a lot of time on it, and he just gets up, sits down, and watches football for 3 hours. This definitely lends credibility to the reason that was given, that he doesn't appreciate her. That's one reason with supporting evidence that she should dump him. If one reason is good, two reasons are better. So here comes another reason. This time he doesn't respect her. Another pretty good reason to get rid of him, but not very convincing. But here's a specific example of him behaving badly. This makes the reason of disrespect a lot more believable and much more convincing. Now, I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves, but I think it is worth taking just a minute to talk about how this information translates to the essay. As we said, the claim usually comes in somewhere in the first paragraph of an essay. Now, there'll be several other sentences, no doubt, as well, but the claim is the key piece in this first paragraph. The second paragraph will have both the reason and the evidence, certainly one of the reasons, and the supporting evidence. Frequently, the reason comes as the first sentence, and then the evidence follows it. It doesn't have to, but you see that most frequently. I personally like that structure. So here's one reason. Now we have another paragraph, which is going to be the second reason, as we talked about in the example. Again, there's the reason, and then supporting evidence belong in the same paragraph because they're logically connected. Now, if we had a third reason and evidence, we would put that in yet another paragraph. And the only other piece we're missing then is we'll write some sort of a summary at the end. That's way beyond the scope of what we're doing here. But I did want to give you a sense of what a 5-paragraph essay might look like in terms of the overall structure, which is really important to getting a good score on your essay. Now back to the topic at hand. Let's make one quick pass through the information we talked about here. First of all, a claim, a statement or opinion everyone may not agree with. Reason is a brief explanation why a claim is true. It typically answers the question, why do you think that, or why do you say that, or why do you believe that? Frequently, a reason is a single sentence, but it usually requires elaboration in some fashion, and that's where the evidence comes in to provide more details to support the reason. Evidence being facts or other convincing information or opinions that support your reason. They tend to be more specific than the reason, since they come in the form of facts. When they're opinions, the more expert the opinion is, the more weight it holds. If you have someone who's an expert in their field and they make a comment about something, that's a lot more credible and believable than somebody who really doesn't know anything about the subject but just happens to have an opinion. Now it's your turn. Pause the video, then look at each of these items below and try to identify each as being a claim, a reason, or evidence. Once you're finished, resume the video and I'll show you the answers. Here are my answers to the items. I say my answers because depending on the context in which they're used, some of these could be classified differently. Number 1, everyone should drive an electric car. The presence of the word should suggests that this is a claim that needs to be proved. Numbers 2, 3, and 4, each of these is a fact which is easily verified. That's a common characteristic of evidence. Number 5, medical marijuana causes chronic pain. I could see this as a reason for a claim that medical marijuana should be legalized. Number 6, college should be free. Again, there's that word should suggesting that this is a claim. Number 7 is a reason. The presence of the word because is what gives it away. That word is almost always followed by a reason. Number 8, nothing good happens after 1 a.m. This is a reason. I could see it supporting a claim that a person should have a curfew. Number 9, the Pope agreed with the idea in a speech yesterday. This is clearly an opinion. Depending on the subject matter, it could be a very strong support for a reason, or it could be a weak one. If the subject matter is one in which the Pope is an expert, then this is very strong evidence. If it's an area that he doesn't have expertise in, then it's much less convincing. Number 10, somebody told me. This is also an opinion and is therefore evidence, but it's very weak evidence because we don't know who this somebody is.